Welcome to the official first episode of the Melanin Money Show. I'm your host, George Acheampong, also co-hosted by Carter Cofield and Jacqueline Shattuck. What up, team? How y'all doing today?
What's up? Happy to be here, man. Looking forward to this partnership, man. Looking forward to giving a tremendous game to the people. And yeah, looking forward to, closing that generational wealth gap as we all want to do.
Absolutely.
Hey, we're getting started. It's number one. We're setting the tone, setting the pace. You know, it is actually Wednesday. So how's your guys' week been?
Hey, I mean, so far so good. You know, happy hump day. It's raining in Charlotte today. Maybe that's a great way to segue because we're doing something that's a little unorthodox, right? Like we are trying to coordinate our schedules every time we record, and we're literally in 3 different places, right? I am in Charlotte, North Carolina. Jacqueline is in Atlanta, Georgia, and Carter normally is in Los Angeles. He's in his hometown right now, Chicago, as of this recording. So yeah, we bring y'all energy from all over the United States, man. So like we hope you guys are excited what we have in store. So we just wanted to start off by setting the tone for what this show is going to be about, right? So Carter actually had his own podcast before he decided to join forces with us, and we had our own podcast. And so we are now bringing all that sauce together for this Black wealth recipe. And so we wanted to make sure that we set the tone so that you guys can understand what this is all about, right? So number one, 2 out of the 3 of us, Carter didn't get the memo, but 2 out of 3 of us right now are wearing the Melanin Money merch, right? And so Melanin Money as a brand started off as a merchandise brand, right? To get out affirmations to help people of color feel inspired to march towards building wealth, right? I knew from the moment that brand was launched that it was going to be more than that, right? And so as of this show being live, not only is this a merchandise brand, it is also the most up and coming community for Melanin Millionaires, right? We have a community where you guys can join, you can learn, you can tap in, you can get guidance and advice on how to become a Melanin Millionaire. And of course, you are listening to the podcast right now, right? The first episode. So the question you might be asking yourself is, well, why roll up everything into this Melanin Money brand? Well, the reality is if you're looking at us on YouTube, right, all of us are of melanin descent, right? And so if we're being honest with ourselves, not that we want to exclude anybody else, but who we were organically serving already was people of color. And so we thought, why not go all in on being one of the top resources for you guys so she can understand what it takes to build wealth as someone that looks like you. So I just wanted to make sure you guys had that context. And, you know, unless Carter and Jacqueline have something to add to that, you know, we'll get into the topic of the day.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think you posted on Instagram today, right? For every dollar that a white person has, a Black person has 10 cents. So again, we're not intentionally excluding anybody. We just have to take care of our own because there's a huge generational wealth gap. And in my opinion, the main difference between being wealthy and not wealthy is information, right? So we're here to provide you all with that information and have some fun while we do it.
Yeah, Carter, you made a good point. You said we have to take care of our own. And so being able to create generational wealth and being able to give back to others really starts with yourself. And you have to take care of yourself before you can take care of others. So if you're taking care of yourself financially, it's going to be so much easier to support your loved ones, your family, your friends, and eventually strangers that you don't know, right? So let's dive into the topic of actually helping you become a millionaire.
Absolutely. So today we are going to talk about the Melanin Millionaire mindset. So this episode, if all goes well, will air on July 7th, somewhere around there. And so as a result of that, I mean, we would basically be just over the hump for the halfway point of 2021, right? So 2021 is moving. But the good news is, if you're an athlete, if you ever played sports growing up, right, you know, at the end of the day, at halftime, you can make halftime adjustments. Right. And so as we go into the second half of the year, we want to give you a blueprint, a mindset that you can use so that you can march on your journey towards becoming a Melanin Millionaire. And we got 5 simple tips or points that we want to give you guys on this very first episode. So this can be the sounding board as we see you guys achieve that milestone of being the wealth starter for your family. All right. All right. So let's talk about the first one. The first one is define your why. All right. So I heard this quote one time and it said, become a millionaire, not for the money that you'll make, but for the person that you must become to make the millions.
Jerome,
right? Yeah. Facts. That's a bar.
That's it.
You know what I'm saying?
That's it right there. Because some people are like, oh yeah, I want to become a millionaire. And then you start down this journey to make like maybe your first 6 figures outside of your job. And you're like, ooh, this is tough. I might not want to do this. And so there's a lot of people that say they want to do something and then they get out there and they realize, okay, that's not exactly what I thought it was. And that's fine. But in defining your why, that's going to help you when times get hard, right? When you have to be consistent. So figuring out why it is that you're really doing something. Are you doing it just to say that you made 7 figures in a year, or, you know, to say that you made 7 figures over your life, you have $1 million net worth? Do you just want to brag about that? Or is there a real reasoning behind why you want to be a millionaire?
Yeah. I mean, that's incredibly important, because what ends up happening is like when you have a superficial target. So for example, let's say your target is you want to look good on the beach in the summertime. That's why you want to have a 6-pack, right? Well, what happens when summer goes away? Right? You're probably gonna pick up the snacks again, probably gonna get relaxed, right? But if you're a parent and you say, man, I want to make sure that when my kid looks at me, they don't have to look past the front porch to see their superhero, right? Or I want to be healthy enough to make sure that I can be there for my kids, to be active with them, right? So your why has to be deeper than surface level value. So it's no different than personal finance. If you have family members who are struggling, right, that you want to be a resource for, like, just make sure that whatever it is for you is deeper than I want to stun on these niggas. You know what I'm saying? Like, because that can last for like how long, right? Until they say, oh, nice car. And then they're gone. And then the first of the month, you're stuck with the bill, right? Like, what is your why? Is it because you never saw anybody like you growing up and you knew the power of being able to see somebody obtain something that's not a rapper or athlete, right? Shout out new age CEOs, right? And you're an entrepreneur or whatever it is that you do. What is it? But just make sure you have a why that's big enough, because desire is what's going to pull you, right? Discipline will push you, but desire will pull you. And your why that I found is something that will pull you.
Yeah, so let's jump in. Like, Carter, what's your why? Give us your why. Like, you're obviously one of the leaders of the Melanin Millionaires Club. What's your why for becoming a millionaire yourself?
Yeah, so I heard a while ago that when your why is stronger, the how is easier, right? So for me, it's just looking at my family, right? Like, I grew up on the south side of Chicago. It was 9 of us in one home, and we were happy, but we didn't have money, right? It was just like we were used to money not being a resource that we had often, and that was fine. But as I grew up and I went through college, I saw other people with money. I was like, okay, this is not an okay mindset to have, and I had to debunk a lot of those myths, of like, money is a scarce resource. So again, I grew up in that. And just because I got it out the mud, I don't want my kids and my family to have to get out the mud. So I want to be the change maker for my family, and then for people around me as well.
Yeah.
And George, like, what's your why?
Yeah, my why is that, similar to Carter, right? Like, when I grew up, I didn't necessarily know exactly that finances per se were the issue. I just knew that I heard no a lot, right? And I knew that there was one Christmas in particular. I had asked my mom for a PlayStation. I'd been asking her all year long. And then by the end of by the time Christmas time rolled around, I saw what I thought was a PlayStation underneath the tree based upon the size of the box. And it ended up being some tube socks, right? And so for me, that always stuck with me, not because I want to go out and buy a bunch of PlayStations, but the fact that I knew that my mom wanted to say yes, but she couldn't. And for me, I don't ever want money to be the primary driver in any of my decision making. Because at the end of the day, that's the essence of financial freedom. It's not that money isn't going to be thought about. It's that if Carter calls me up and says, hey, G, let's do lunch in Colombia tomorrow, right? Only thing I'm thinking about is, can I cancel my meetings today? Do I have something going on? I can't afford the flight, right? I just don't want money to be the primary driver in my decision making, right? So that whether it's something I'm truly passionate about that I want to do, something I want to help somebody else with, I want to be able to have the financial resources to be able to do it without that being the hurdle.
Yeah, that's huge, honestly, because what we see a lot of times is people making moves out of desperation, right? Mm-hmm. Because you don't have money, because you're lacking sources to be able to do the things that you want to do. You end up making these desperate choices. And so what I want people to think about is their why for doing something so that they can stay committed to the process. because when you figure out, just like Carter said, like when your why is so much bigger than your how, like you'll figure out the how. Because that's what it was for me. My why was, I was like, I don't understand why why I was born into this very poor situation. And, I have figured out the how. So I think when you figure out what it is that you want, there's always a way to achieve that.
Big facts, big facts. All right, which brings us up to our second point. And if y'all hear any thunder in the background, y'all have to forgive it because it's raining like cats and dogs out here in North Carolina. And that brings us to our second point, right? You gotta face the facts, right? And facing the facts could be scary, right? Because when it comes to facing the facts, whether it's your bank account or your finances or whether it's your body, I always like to use the physical example because unless you get surgery, which is something that a lot of people do now, but unless you get surgery, like at the end of the day, your body is going to be a result of the food that you eat and the workouts that you put in, right? And so when you look in the mirror, not with the filter, not with the angle, not sucking in, like that is who you are and what you got from a physical standpoint. And just like with your finances, right? When you think about how much money is in the bank account, when you think about how much money you have invested, when you think about how much debt you have, when you think about all the things that you need to address in order to feel financially secure, right? Those are things that you got to face, right? And in that moment, it can feel naked and it can feel very uncomfortable. But we want you to face the facts because you're not going to be able to know exactly where to go if you don't face that fact. Now, here's a great analogy. Let's say the lights were off at your house and it was dark, right? You're trying to maneuver around and you're watching your step because you can't see, right? Now you might turn the lights on and there might be a bunch of shit on the floor, right? But at least because the lights on, i.e. you have clarity, at least you know how to now maneuver. But when you don't have clarity about at least where you are with your financial situation, that's going to put you in a bad spot because you're now paralyzed because you're in that dark room and you don't want to stub your toe and you don't want to step on something. And so we got to make sure that we face the facts, but ultimately we want to keep the faith. So what do y'all think about that point?
I love it. I think that's one of the hardest things to do. And I heard a quote, I think it's about Jim Rohn. It's like 15 minutes of neglect can cause a year repair, right? So the longer you keep neglecting, the further into financial despair that you're eventually going to be. So I think, one of the harder things for people to do is take that look in the mirror and say, hey, where do I stand today? Because it's honestly kind of impossible to know where you want to go or where you're going if you don't even know where you're starting from, right? So again, facing the facts and, it's not, we all have our baggage and things like that, but like, again, if you know where you are, it's even easier to know where you want to go.
You know what? And real quick to that point, you made me think about something. To your quote, I'll give you another quote. If you keep kicking the can down the road, eventually you're going to run out of road, right? So at some point, you got to pick it up. You got to face the facts, but keep the faith. Jacqueline, I thought you were going to.
I assume that you're like the third person to go. Like,
yeah, facing the facts. It is one of the hardest things to do, to look in the mirror and say, hey, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. Like, hey, I am overspending. Nobody is forcing me to do this. I'm spending more than I should be. And it's causing me to go into debt, or it's keeping me from putting money into things that are going to increase my net worth and that are going to grow my wealth. And so it's just facing the facts. And maybe this isn't for you. Maybe building wealth and being a millionaire is not for you. And that's like a tough conversation. That's a tough fact for you to face, that like, yeah, maybe I'm just not cut out for that. And that's okay. We've met people like that before. They're like, yeah, I'm not really cut out for this like very rigid, 7-figure millionaire lifestyle. Like I kind of want to chill and I want to, hang out, and I don't want to, face the facts of it's going to be, this amount of work. So I think that is just important for you to just take a look in the mirror. Maybe you need to ask a friend, ask an accountability partner, like, hey, like, what do you think? Like, what am I doing? That's where obviously financial planners, coaches, advisors come into play, because they're able to give you a realistic understanding of where you are, and like Carter said, you have to know where you are in order to know where you're going to go. What were you saying?
Yeah, and I think facing the facts is deeper than just like the money facts, right? It's like debunking the myths of financial literacy. Like if you think money is a scarce asset, it's impossible for you to be a millionaire. That's just one of the things. So I think it's even further than facing the facts of you financially, facing the mindset blocks that you were probably taught as a kid. It's not your fault, but it is ultimately your fault to repair those.
Yeah, one book that I recommend that might be helpful with that is a book called Killing Sacred Cows by Garrett Gunterson. It's a great book, right? It's a great book. And to Jacqueline's point, like, here's what I would say. Anybody can say they want to do something. Anybody can say they want to be a millionaire. Anybody can say they want a six pack, but your actions will determine if you're telling the truth or you're a liar, because it's easy to say what you want, right? The actions and the habits determine if that's actually what you want, right? So just be very mindful of your actions, be very mindful of your habits, because ultimately that is going to drive the outcome.
Yeah, but I think one of those things, before we move on to the next point, what Carter was saying about being in an abundance mindset, my quote is frugality is founded on the principle that all riches have limits. So if you're a frugal person, then you're thinking from a mindset of like, oh, there's not enough, there's not going to be enough. And that's a very closed-minded mindset to have. Because I think that once you look out here and you see that there's so many opportunities to make money, I think that there's a phrase that we are really turning people off with, and it's by telling people you have to have multiple streams of income. Everyone needs multiple streams of income. I think that that's the wrong way to put it. I think that you have the opportunity to have multiple streams of income, and you're able to execute on that opportunity if you choose to.
True. I mean, you know what I say, eclectic equity, saying get money always in all ways. You know what I mean? So evaluate where you are, and that is going to be the sounding board for where you can go next. All right. So now let's get tactical. You got to define your target, right? You got to define your target. You cannot hit a target that you cannot see. You have to get specific. You have to say, this is what I want to accomplish. This is when I want to accomplish it. I think we call it SMART goals, right? Carter, you want to give us the acronym for what SMART goals is?
So is it specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and the last, what's T stand for?
Time.
Yeah, time. Again, so like those are all great points, because you have to have each of those different pillars defined for your specific situation. Again, everybody's situation is different, but for me, so let me give you all a quick story. For me, this is how someone broke it down to me that made $1 million seem so easy. So I was sitting with a good friend of mine, Terry Gioma, that owns Trade and Travel.
Shout out Terry.
Yeah, shout out Terry. She's a millionaire, right? And as you know, it's fine. And we sat down for dinner, and then telling her about my goals. She was like, "Well, this is how I break down $1 million to make it very simple." She looked at how much her courses were, and then she obviously divided that by how many, divided $1 million by how much her courses were. That's how many people she had to sell courses to, right? Really easy. And then she looked at her conversion rate. It was, all right, I need to just get in front of this many people, because if I get in front of 1,000 people, my conversion rate is X, then that's all I have to do to be a millionaire. And that was the easiest and like calmest way somebody ever kind of taught me how to think about making $1 million. And it made it seem so much easier than this astronomical daunting number, right? Just like really easy, put the numbers to it, put in the work. So I love that. Define your target.
Yeah. Like, I mean, the easiest way to eat an elephant is one piece at a time. You know what I mean? Like, and to take a step back from the $1 million number, right? It's like 100,000. What is it? 273 a day. You know what I mean? You don't think that you don't have a product or service or enough value to create an average of $273 a day, right? If that's your first target, is that six figures, right? And if you want it in a month, you just reverse engineer it. Like, I'm smiling because it's so easy, right? It's so easy when you just break it down, right? Stop thinking about here's how I like to put it, right? Let's look at it as if we were baking a cake, and I don't bake cakes, so this analogy might be a little skewed, but when you want to bake a cake, right, you have all these different ingredients. You have butter, you have flour, you have baking soda, you have all this stuff that you have to put inside of the cake. You have the time that you have to put it in the oven, et cetera, right? And even if you know nothing about baking, you probably can follow a recipe, right? The recipe is going to get you to a certain place. And that's how I feel like it is about getting in shape and about like getting to a certain target from a wealth building perspective, right? You just have to do the daily add the daily ingredients to your recipe. And ultimately you're going to look up and you're going to be there, right? But if you focus on, I want to be a millionaire, right? You're not focusing on, okay, am I mastering my craft? Did I sell to those 3 people that I have to sell to every day, right? Like those small ingredients, then you're always going to miss the mark, right? Focus on the tactics and you will hit the target. I'm gonna say that again. Focus on the tactics and you will hit the target. Sometimes your head is so far in the clouds about all these things that don't matter and how stuff is placed on your website. And like, what is the goal? How many customers do you need to acquire each day, each week, each month to hit your target? To Carter's point, what is your conversion rate? Based upon your conversion rate, how many people do you need to get in front of, right? You focus on those tactics, the result is damn near inevitable, right? So for whatever your goal is, that's how you reverse engineer. You break it down into bite-sized chunks and figure out the tactics and focus on those daily actions. And that's how you're going to get there.
Yeah, you break it down and you write it down. I think you got to write it somewhere. I mean, at the very least, if you put it down in your phone, in your notes, like, that's a start, but I think that you need to write it down. You need a little Post-it note in front of you or a whiteboard that keeps you accountable. I would say when you're defining your target, you need to write it down somewhere.
I love that. I have a friend that, wants to make $1 million, and she has on her phone the daily, whatever, how much she has to make a day. Right. So I think it's like a little less than $2,800 a day. So every day before she goes to sleep, charge her phone, she has to ask herself the question, did I make that $2,800 today? Right? Or did I make more? So it just, again, I love that, writing it down and looking at it every day, because again, we can get caught up in the day-to-day and forget what our overarching goals are.
Yeah. Like what is what is most important? Like people get caught up in the minutia of all this stuff. Like I think Carter, I don't know if you remember the exact quote, but you reposted it. Somebody else recently reposted it, but it was something along the lines of, sometimes people are so busy working that they don't have enough time to get, well, I can't remember what it was, but
yeah. I think it's like if you spend all your time working, it's impossible to be rich, something like that.
Something like that, right?
Yeah.
Which means if you're just like in the weeds, right? Like you're just going through the motions, right? Like here's the thing, there's a big difference between transformation and transformation and maintaining, right? Transforming and maintaining. Right? When you want to transform, you have to do something different. When you want to maintain, you just keep doing what you're doing. So for example, let's say you have a decent body. You're in decent shape. You have okay money in your bank account, right? You just keep doing what you're doing because it's going to probably allow you to at least stay where you're at, right? But if you're not happy with where you're at, you have to go into transformation mode, right? You have to do something. Every time you go in the gym, it has to be harder than it was last time. Because if it was the same, then your body is an adaptability mechanism, right? It's going to keep you on even keel. You got to break those muscles down every single time harder than you did it before. And that is the only way to transform. So it's no different than what your finances are, right? Like if you keep the same habits, if you're only making the same amount of money, if you're only saving the same amount, what do you think is going to happen? Nothing is going to change. Now, that doesn't supersede the fact that being consistent with whatever you're doing is important, but ask yourself, on this day, did I get a little bit better? Did I push myself a little bit more than I did on the previous situation? Because I have this quote that I say that life is all about making voluntary deposits into the bank account, because some days life is going to make a withdrawal and you don't want to overdraft, right? There's going to be some days beyond your control where shit, you were tired, you overslept, maybe you had one too many drinks, whatever it is. But as long as you made proactive deposits when you were able, right? Then that is all that matters. You know what I'm saying? That's how you end up staying ahead and that's how you hit your goals.
Yeah, I think our next point was to create your plan, but I also think that it makes sense to have the point of you have to change your environment, because like you're saying, George, for if you want the same result, keep doing what you're doing right now. But if you want different results, you have to do something differently. So I push this point of like an easy way to change your environment is to start with your phone. Just change your phone, change what apps are in your phone, change what you're using the most. Like if you know that you're spending way too much time on social media, just scrolling, set time limits on there. Your phone will kick you off. And then guess what? When it tells you, hey, your time limit is up, you are going to make the choice to continue to do what you're doing
Facts.
or to switch.
And I think that fits in here because like creating a plan could, one of the pillars in creating your plan could be changing your environment, right? Which I think is one of the most powerful. See, I saved you right there. No, that's one of the most powerful things you can do from an anything standpoint. If you want to become an entrepreneur, hang out with entrepreneurs. If you want to become a millionaire, hang out with millionaires. It's very, very simple. You are the 3 to 5 most people that you hang around. We all heard that quote before, but it's so true. So actually, let's wrap that up. So let's give our own like favorite part of creating a plan. So it seems like Jacqueline's one of her favorite things to do about creating a plan is to change your environment, right? One of my things as far as like, creating a plan for me to become a millionaire, I love automation. I don't like to be defined by or left up to my daily habits, right? So I believe in automating as much as possible. So when that comes to investing, when that comes to saving, whatever, I love automating everything because again, we're all human. We all make mistakes. We all, have our vices. But when you automate things and do as much as you can to remove yourself from the equation, I think that you just set yourself up for better success. So as far as creating a plan goes for me, I would look at what aspects of my finances can I automate to get myself out the way, whether that's putting your bills on auto pay, right? Whether that's setting your investments on auto pool, right? Whatever you need to do to remove yourself as much as you possibly can, I believe that will help you in the long run.
Big facts, big facts. Big Draco. Shout out to Big Draco and on the verses. But for me, one of the most important parts of the plan is creating a champions checklist, right? And for me, a champions checklist is a binary approach to my day. There's no maybe, there's no I worked hard. It's yes or no, right? So creating my champions checklist, because if I'm a champion, the champion of my life, right? I need to be able to look myself in the mirror every single day and say, did I do what champions do? Did I show up like a big dog, right? Yes or no, in a few specific categories, right? And for me, it's always going to be well-rounded. It's never going to be just around finances. Obviously, I know this is what our show is centered around, but whatever those categories are for you, or whatever those tactics are for you, having a champions checklist that you can easily check off and say yes or no every single day. I think that's an incredible part of a plan, is making sure that you have that, because again, if you have those tactics, if you have those ingredients for your recipe, it's almost impossible not to be able to make that thing happen.
No, that makes a lot of sense because you have to get a win every day. You have to, whether it's automated or not, you have to get a win every single day. So that makes a whole lot of sense.
Big facts, big facts. All right, so let's move on to our fifth point. Before we move on to our fifth point, let's just do a quick recap, because I know we probably did a couple of tangents along the way. So number 1, define your why. Number 2, face the facts. Number 3, define your target. Number 4, create a plan. And then number 5, the hard one, the real hard one, right? Because you can create a pretty plan on paper. You can maybe even face the facts. You can even define your why. But the hard part is, are you going to be able to do this over and over and over and over again? So the 5th point is commitment and consistency. Deciding and doing over and over, deciding and doing, commitment and consistency. So let me ask you guys this. Jacqueline, you can go first. How do you remain consistent and committed throughout all of the variables that can happen in life? And if you have moments where you fall by the wayside, how do you pick yourself up to remind yourself, like, I got to keep going? Because we all are going to fall short, right, at times, right?
Yeah. So I actually have a small whiteboard that I keep around my office. And every day I write on top of it today's goals. And then I have goals for the month. And then towards the bottom of it, I have larger goals. And so on my today's goals, like, I'll write maybe 5 or 6 of the biggest things that I want to get done for that day. And then it keeps me motivated by getting to check those things off of the list. And a lot of times checking those today's goals off of the list are part of monthly goals. So that's what helps keep me consistent, and my why, of course, building generational wealth and helping others. That's also tied up in that. When I do fall off track, honestly, I have one video in particular from YouTube that has probably like 40 million views that I've been watching for like the last 8 years, I think. It's been on there like 8 or 9 years, but it's like a dream motivation kind of like little clip that somebody put together that is my go-to. It's been my go-to. Like the first time I listened to it, I think I cried because it was my journey to being a millionaire at the beginning of it. And like that was kind of part of me getting started. And so there's like one particular video that I go back to a lot. And sometimes I just go to other videos that are motivational because sometimes you just need to hear something. Like you already know it, right? Like I don't even know who's listening to this right now, but I know that you can become a millionaire. Why? Because I've seen so many people do it. So many people with probably less resources than you, less skills, less understanding of how the markets work, and they've figured out how to make it happen. So I know that you can make it happen too. And sometimes you just need to hear that.
Yeah, Jacqueline, we go ahead. Hopefully we can drop that video in the show notes because I'm definitely want to chime into that. But yeah, so mine is two things, right? It's one way I stay committed, and the other way is how I stay consistent, right? So I stay committed with my morning routine. The most important thing I do every day, without a shadow of a doubt, is my morning routine. The first hour of my day is locked. Nobody can get in touch with me, no emails, no phone calls. The president of the United States couldn't talk to me if he wanted to. That first hour of the day is for me to get in a powerful state for me to win the day, right? So that's meditation, that's stretching, that's motivational videos, that's reviewing my goal for the day, right? So that morning routine recommits me every single day. And again, I do not miss it. I am not the same without it. So I think having a strong morning routine can keep the best of us committed. Yeah. Now how I stay consistent is simple. No scoreboard watching. So Neil Davis has this quote that I've been, I stole like about a year and a half ago, and it's no scoreboard watching. So I don't care what I did yesterday. What I did yesterday is in the past, right? I'm starting a new day, and how can I become my best version of myself today? So if my goal was to make $3,000 a day to become a millionaire, and I made $6,000 yesterday, I don't care about yesterday. I still have a $3,000 goal today to get to my goal. So no scoreboard watching for me is how I stay most consistent. Because again, every day is a new day, and I'm treating it as if I have something to go, something to go eat, something to go kill today. And so for me, the morning routine and no scoreboard watching is how I stay committed and consistent.
Yo, the no scoreboard watching is so powerful, right? The reason why it's so powerful is because, again, it goes back to those voluntary deposits when you're able, right? And so, because if you scoreboard watch, like, well, technically I could slack today because I hit 6,000 yesterday, so I don't really got to hit it today. But you never know when life is going to present a scenario where you can't show up or can't do something, right? So I think it almost guarantees that you're going to exceed your goal because you're never trying to like go back to look at like, oh, what did I do yesterday, right? Nobody likes the guy who talks about their stories, their glory days from high school. Oh, like, dude, you're 30 now, right? Like, what have you done for me lately? So no, I love that, guys. And so when Carter was talking, it made me think that we know we should come up with. It should be very simple, and maybe everybody can tweak it themselves, but we can at least give them a framework. But the Melanin Millionaire Morning, right? I feel like if we have a standard, like, hey, look, this is what we do. And again, you can, like Carter always like to say, it's like a grocery store. You can take what you want, leave what you don't, right? So, but at least if we give you guys maybe a framework, I think there's something super powerful with having a defined like morning routine. Because here's the thing, the same way people are going to feel energized on July 1st because it's a fresh start, imagine being able to create that fresh start every single day by winning with that morning routine. So I have a morning routine, but I haven't thought about it in that way or presenting it as a framework potentially for someone else to leverage. So count on me, count on us. We're going to give you guys the Melanin Millionaire Morning. And you'll be able to grab that exclusively inside of the Melanin Millionaires Club, right? And that's a great way to round out this episode, right? So this first episode was to help you guys understand more about what Melanin Money is all about as a platform, the information and insights that we're going to provide you along your journey. But what better way to provide you those insights than you guys locking arms with us inside of a space that's exclusively and uniquely designed for people that look just like you on the same journey as you, right? So that'll be available inside the Melanin Millionaires Club. And guys, we're just ecstatic for this journey, right? We're going to have opportunities for you guys to share your wins, share your milestones, because we want to show people how possible it is to achieve these goals of becoming financially free.
Yeah, those are great points. I like the morning thing. You know me, I'm a morning person wannabe. So, I think that makes a lot of sense. So we'll definitely have to put that framework together.
Yep. And one thing we can do, depending upon who wants to jump on the train, is I think I mentioned this to Carter last time I was maybe in LA, I think. But one thing that I used to do that I thought was really cool, I got it from David Shan. Shout out to David Shan, is my guy. Get an accountability partner, accountability group, and y'all tell each other your goals at the beginning of the week, right? And whoever doesn't complete those goals, right, you have to pay up, basically. You have to put money into the pot, right? And then if it's just another person, I guess whoever wins, they can take the money or whatever they want to do with it, or y'all can decide collectively to do something with the money, maybe put it to good use. The goal is for nobody to get money, obviously, right? But at the end of the day, I think that could also be a little motivator for you guys, something that you can do to really like kick yourself in the butt to make sure that you hit those goals. But nonetheless, we'll make sure.
Wait, so you do that? Wait, so you do that?
I did at one point. I haven't done it in a while. I mean, I still, still hit my goals, but I haven't done that for a particular tactic in a while.
I'll take your money.
I mean, what y'all trying to do?
Hey, say less.
What y'all trying to do? All right, we
paste it to the group chat.
Yeah, we go work this out after but I love that because we on the spot, we just committed again to doing something else, right? That helps us, get to our, millionaire goals, right? We're going to define a target in the chat every week and then see if we get to that target. And again, that's just us letting the listeners know that one, we're not perfect, and two, we still do things to push ourselves every day. Yep.
And we'll talk about it each week, right?
Oh crap. Okay.
Who got the money? And it's also going to force you to be realistic with your goals. Because what some people do is they kid themselves, right? You put all this stuff on your calendar and then next thing you know, boom, gets moved, boom, gets moved, boom, gets moved. Next thing you know, it's fucking the end of the year. And you've been moving something since January, right? So it's going to force you to be realistic with your goals because you don't want to keep giving money away. But anyways,
I know I got a couple things in there.
We're going to see for sure.
Right.
We're going to push back because we do want you to stretch. Realistic doesn't mean shrink your goals, right? It just means committing and being thoughtful about your capacity and what is the highest driver, right? What is the most important thing you should be focused on? So it's not like, oh, I'm gonna go to the gym for 5 minutes. Nah, like, no, you still gotta have some real goals, right? It's not gonna be a cakewalk. But anywho, guys, this is the People's Podcast. So it's gonna be very important for you guys to let us know the topics you want to hear, the people that you want us to invite on. I mean, we already got a pretty heavy roster of people that are in our ecosystem that we're going to invite. But if there's people like, we got to have this guy on, we got to have this girl on, we got to hear y'all break down this topic. As you know, Carter is the tax guru. So, he's definitely going to be giving y'all some game on how to really take your tax knowledge to the next level so that you can leverage that information to build wealth, right? Because at the end of the day, no one wants to become an expert at paying off debt or an expert at investing or an expert at taxes. What happens is we learn these skill sets to empower us to get access to more money so that we can use those resources to become financially free. It's all just a means to an end, right? So get in where you fit in, but understand what your target is and what your why is. And ultimately, that's how you're going to be able to get to that destination of being able to wave that financial freedom flag one day and be able to do what you love, right? It's be on the yacht on a Tuesday, saying? Living your best life. So that's all I got, guys. What y'all got? Anything else you got for the people on episode 1 of the Melanin Money Show?
No, looking forward to more episodes, guys. Stay tuned. We got some big announcements coming up. Super excited to, drop in knowledge and give y'all amazing resources. So just stay tuned.
Right. And how could I forget? This is important, guys. All of us shut down a previous podcast to be able to bring you guys this value for free and start fresh. So the only thing we're asking of you guys, is to leave a 5-star review if you love this episode or believe that you'll love the content to come, right? Make sure that you subscribe. And then if you're on social media, share it in your stories and tag Melanin Money. If you can do those 3 things, we're going to pick a winner and we're going to give away 3 items from the Melanin Money store, right? We're going to drip you up. You know what I'm saying? Clean up on aisle 6. You know what I'm saying? We're going to drip you up real good. All right. So all you got to do, subscribe, leave a 5-star review. If you're on social media, tag us in the story so that we can get the word out, right? This entire show is dedicated to you, right? Aspiring Melanin Millionaires. If y'all can do that for us, we'll be eternally grateful. And we promise to bring y'all the fire when it comes to this content.
What? Yeah, we're already bringing the fire. Like if you listen to the end, then you're getting some real value. I know you're going to get off of here and you're going to create your plan. Or if you already created your plan, you're going to execute on your plan. And next thing you know, you're going to look up and you're going to be a Melanin millionaire, and you're going to be in your free merch because you posted us on social media.
I love it. Let's go.
It's a fact. Call to action. Tap in with the crew. Hey, we appreciate you guys. Until next time.